You might be wondering, what's that all about? Did you see my video last week? I was putting together a 500-piece jigsaw puzzle. It's finished. 2.5 weeks later, I'm done. You know, it's interesting. I was in conversation with a friend about 10 days ago or so. And I said to him, I'm putting together a 500-piece jigsaw puzzle. He said to me, oh, my dad loves jigsaw puzzles. They're great for the brain, great exercise for the brain. Cool. I said to him, Mike, you know, it'll probably take me about 6 months to finish this task. Mike turned to me and said, all right, just keep at it. You're good at it. Well, we're about 5.5 months ahead of schedule. How's that for some great gratitude? Fascinating, isn't it? Now you're probably wondering, and what's the second picture? What's the second one all about? Well, before I finished this one, I'm like, gotta have the next one. It's good for the brain. You know, when I first started, it was daunting. I was like, be lucky if I'm done in 6 months with this. I'm gonna keep up with this? How? I guess if you write a 300-page book, this should be like a walk in the park, really, technically. Well, it wasn't a walk in the park. It was quite daunting, actually. It was daunting in the beginning. But once, it's interesting, once I got past the halfway stage, it just went so fast. I think I went from the halfway stage till I finished it in the space of about 24 hours. I didn't spend the whole 24 hours doing it. Spent about 2 or 3 or so, but it was done. And it's interesting towards the end, it was daunting. The pieces were not coming together. They weren't coming together. But then when they came together, then there was another task. I had to glue it down. How do you glue it down when you already put it down? How are you going to glue it down? I had to figure out the art of doing that. A bit of surfing on YouTube always does a good amount of knowledge and helps you figure out how to do it. It's cool being resourceful and improvising a little bit as well. I took some tips from different videos I saw on YouTube, and then I improvised and did my own style at the end of it. It's a fascinating experience putting together a puzzle. You might be wondering, and I spoke about this last week, but I have to mention it again. You might be wondering, fascinating experience. Children do it at the age of 8, 7. I didn't do it as a child. I don't remember doing it as a child. Maybe I did, but I have no recollection of doing it as a child. And it helps me realize certain things which I never thought about, like what goes into putting a puzzle together, the cognitive motor skills that go into it, figuring out piece by piece and turning it upside down and down and up, etc. A lot goes into it. It's been a fascinating experience, and with the new puzzle I bought, which is pretty cool. It's about it's Positano Amalfi Coast, which is really cool. I thought this would be my next project. I actually saw in the store another beautiful one from Central Park. I lived as a child not far from Central Park. I thought maybe I should do one in Central Park. I didn't do it in the end. I didn't buy it in the end. Maybe it would have been Prospect Park, which is really very, very close to where I lived as a child, and we actually walked there numerous times. Maybe then I would have bought it. Yeah, it's been a great, thrilling experience putting together a puzzle. It's been therapeutic as well. It's calmed my mind after a full day. And it's also given me some great talents and skills in the process. You know, recently I was reading from a book called The Garden of Gratitude. It was written by a rabbi, he's called Rabbi Arush. And he described in detail the experience that our patriarch, I say our because I believe that Jacob was the patriarch of all human beings, all peoples. I believe the patriarchs and the matriarchs were the matriarchs and patriarchs of all human beings, because we've all drank from the source and the fountain of their great insights and knowledge and wisdom. And he went into detail to describe what it was that Jacob experienced after he ran away from his brother Esau. I want to show you a picture of the book because it's a beautiful cover. Just bear with me a second. As far as I'm concerned, gratitude is a universal idea. And everybody can relate to the concept of gratitude, and it speaks to everybody. Getting back to the point I was in the middle of talking about. So Jacob ran away from his brother Esau, who was planning to kill him. He had surmised the plan, and that was what he planned to do. And Rabbi Arush, he explains in the book what happened as this plan manifested. Jacob ran away, and Esau sent his grandson Eliphaz to find him. And Jacob was willing to give him all his belongings. And thereafter he went to meet his uncle, Lavan, and he ended up marrying two of his daughters. Now, Jacob gave all his belongings away, all his fortunes away to Eliphaz in order to save his life. And one might wonder, why did God do that? Why couldn't he just keep him wealthy? And he describes in detail what would have happened if Jacob would have been kept wealthy. He wouldn't have had to give away his fortunes, his belongings. What would have happened? He would have met his prospective wife, Rachel, and he would have married her, and that's it. And the whole 12 tribes would never have been born. So he had to endure this experience of having to lose all his fortunes, all his belongings. That way he was able to go and meet his prospective wife, and to be deceived by Lavan after working for 7 years, and to have his wife switched into Leah. He had to go through this whole cycle, and then he had to work again for another 7 years for Rachel in order for the whole 12 tribes of Israel to be born. Now, I never thought about this. I always loved this story. This is an interesting story that took place. But I never thought about these events, the sequence of the events that had to transpire in order for Jacob to be able to build the 12 tribes of Israel. It's a fascinating idea, and it doesn't just, Rabbi Arush is saying, it doesn't just relate to Jacob. It relates to every single person. When you go through a difficult experience, you don't realize why it's happening. You're like, God, why me? Why me? And for those who don't believe in God, it's like, how do I get out of this? Why is this happening to me? So you go through the experience and you mature in the process. You have to mature in the process. Many people don't mature in the process. That's a choice. I always say the choice. A person doesn't want to mature, wants to remain solvent, wants to remain on the same level as he started. No problem. I believe the word is salviant. Some to that effect. It's a choice. A person could remain within their choice. But if they want to mature, they want to become independent in the process, grow and mature as a result of their experience, as a result of the trial or tribulation they have been through, they manage to grow and manifest to a place which they never thought possible. And that you learn from this story. He also relates the story of Nachum Ish Gamzu, which is a story of an individual who was sent by the Jewish people to bribe the king and convince him not to kill the Jewish communities. And he was on his way to the king, and he had stopped off in an inn, and overnight his bag of jewels was stolen, and he didn't go into a state of panic. He said, this will also turn out well. And he got to the king, and the king was made aware that this bag, which initially had jewels in it and now had mud because the owner of the inn had stolen the jewels, the king was made aware by Elijah the prophet that this earth could actually be thrown and it could turn into pistols, and it could save the country, and it could be successful in war. And the king used it, and he was indeed successful, and saved the Jewish people as a result. Again, it was a difficult experience. It was a scary experience as it took place. Just imagine you've been sent as an emissary for the Jewish people, for an entire group of people, groups of people for that matter. You've been sent out to bribe the king and stop his plan to annihilate this group of people, groups of people, whatever. And I don't know if it was groups of different Jewish communities in that particular location. And he just kept his faith. He's like, God is not going to forsake me. God is going to turn this around. I was talking to a friend today, and I said to her, I have a higher power that I'm able to live with for the majority of the time of my life, which is amazing. And I don't go into a state of panic and fear like I used to because I have this higher power. And I was thinking to myself further, if not for my experience, if not for what I've had to endure through my experience, if not for having my fortunes taken away from me, I never would have had this beautiful faith in God. I never would have had the strength which I have today, this power which I have today. I had to endure all that. Think about it. Of course, I hope, I pray, and I know that I will be reunited with my precious diamonds, my jewels, my offsprings. But I know that it happened to me in order to get me to the place I am today. I am a strong person today only because of my experience. Like in the story of Nachum Ish Gamzu, he said, thank you, God. I know you're going to turn this out well. Rabbi Rush says in his book, go through every experience and just thank God. Keep up the faith whilst thanking God. I saw another fascinating story from Tony Robbins. He describes what happened to an individual who was in a concentration camp. A Jewish person who was in a concentration camp. And he told his fellow campers, he's like, I'm not sticking around here. I'm going to escape. They're like, you're nuts. Just stay where you are. Keep up the faith. Pray your way at it, but don't do anything stupid. You're not going to survive. This individual said, I will survive. I won't just survive, I'll thrive, but I'm going to escape in order to get there to do it. And he did a very crazy thing. He hid himself amongst corpses. And that's literally how he escaped the camp. He hid himself amongst corpses. He removed his clothing and hid himself amongst corpses, and he was dumped with a whole barrage of corpses. And that's how he escaped. And he ran for 25 miles like that. Now, I'm reading Tony Robbins' book now for the second time. I read books at least 3 times. I remember reading this the first time. I was like, oh my gosh, please. I could never imagine myself doing such a thing. Please, for goodness sake, for God's sake, how could you lie down amongst corpses and the weight of the corpses, because they dumped them out on a dump truck. He almost got crushed from it. How did he do it? And the stench and everything. I remember the first time I read it, I was like, please, there's no way I could even picture doing such a thing. Second time reading it, I've gained such strength because of reading. I'm like, that's pretty fascinating. That's pretty amazing. This also comes from reading books more than one time. I say you don't acquire enough by reading a book just once. Some books I've read 5 times already. I've read, what's his name? Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Silence. I've read it now. I think it's called The Power of Silence. Forgive me if I got that wrong. I've read it 5 times in total. I hope to get back to that book in the future. I've also been lately listening a lot to Jeff Bezos' interviews. I like who you hang out with, you become like. That's just how it is. So I like to hang out with Jeff Bezos. Why not? It's free. So happens that it's free and you can listen to it on YouTube. So why not enjoy it? We don't realize how many free gifts we have out there nowadays. Okay, you pay premium on YouTube and you actually get it without the advertisements, so it makes it a lot better too. So you pay a little bit of money, it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. I really enjoyed this week listening to a lot of Jeff Bezos' interviews and his lessons and his tips and ideas. Jeff Bezos talks a lot about this concept of perseverance, of commitment, thinking in the long term, not in the short term. He also talks a lot about listening to your critics and not getting upset and angry when people criticize you. Listen to your critics, and if they are giving you useful ideas, take them on board. Why would you throw away jewels and diamonds, he says. He says, obviously there are self-motivated critics who are not doing it with any intention to help you. You obviously have to sift through. He also talks a lot about the idea and the concept of intuition. The wealthiest man in the world talks about the great advantage one gains from having intuition. Don't waste your intuition. That's where everything starts. I also saw an amazing tip from Napoleon Hill in the book on having a positive mental attitude. He says that he met and has actually pursued this process of sitting for ideas. Sitting for ideas, what does that mean? It means that when you sit for ideas, you allow your intuition to come in, you allow your past experiences built up in your brain to come into your brain. You can really gain tips, and this particular individual had found certain patterns and certain great secrets as a result of sitting for ideas for a couple of hours every day. That's my message today. Have you ever put a puzzle together? I want to hear about it in the comment section down below. What was it like? What do you think about puzzles in general? I want to hear about it. And what do you think about my great insights, my great ideas I've shared with you today? Please drop in the comment section down below. And do you like my videos of late? A little bit of a different style, aren't they? I also want to know if you want to hear me play my guitar again. Or perhaps my music keyboard. Been thinking about buying a music keyboard. Maybe you want me to do that? I'll consider doing that. Please drop me a comment in the comment section down below. I value your feedback. They're very important to me. Mike, I want to thank you once again for your great feedback. I'm ever so grateful. I believe this channel is going to grow and blossom. I have that commitment that perseveres within me, and I will not fail. I'm a person with a strong belief, a strong tenacity, and it's going to happen. I believe that very soon I'll be seeing 1,000 subscribers. Very soon. I believe in it. Come on, bring more subscribers along. Why not? I share great insights, great tips. It so happens that just for 7 months now, I've been reading from the fountain of about 11 books a day, over a couple of hours every day. So it's worthwhile, worth your time. Come on, bring your friends along. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks so much for the new subscribers. Thanks so much for your amazing comments. And thanks so much to all of you for giving me your time. I love you all. Have a great Shabbat. Have a great weekend. Love you all.